Hey, how's it going, everyone? My name is Deathboy, and today I want to cover a guide for the Legion raid of Vykas and Lost Ark. I already know there's plenty of guides on YouTube for the raid, however, the raid has been changed a lot since May of 2023 and September of 2023. So I'm going to give you an updated guide for the raid. So if you are a new or returning player, I highly recommend that you watch this video, and I hope this video does help you out. I will try to go in as much detail as I can. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Legion Raid Vykas can be entered at item level 1430 for normal mode or item level 1460 for hard mode. In this video, I will be covering hard mode since that's what most people run. If you want me to cover normal mode, please let me know in the comment section below. Before you enter Vykas Gate 2, you need to bring the correct battle items. You will bring the following: Whirlwind Grenade, Time Stop Potion, and Sleep Bomb. Sleep Bomb will be used on a raid member that has been charmed. I will explain the proper time to use these battle items throughout the course of this video. And please do not forget your health potion. The last thing I want to mention before we start Vykas Gate 2 is regarding the September 2023 changes. Vykas Gate 2 mechanics can be skipped if you can do enough damage to the boss. This mainly applies to lobbies with overgeared people, but it is something I wanted to mention. I highly advise you experience this gate on item level so that you get the intended experience. When you enter Vykas Gate 2, you will get a bar above your head. I like to call this the lust meter. For certain mechanics in this raid, you will need to get your lust meter to red or fill it up entirely. You will also need to make sure that your meter is not full unless it is required. If this lust meter gets full, you will get charmed. When you are charmed, you are in a PvP state and your character will randomly attack other raid members that are not charmed. This can be problematic. In the event that a raid member gets charmed, if you throw a sleep bomb on the raid member that is charmed, it will sleep the raid member and that raid member will no longer be charmed. Now, before we get into the major mechanics, I also need to explain that a lot of the attack patterns that Vykas performs in the raid can increase your lust meter. So you need to make sure that you have good gauge management and only increase your lust meter when it is required. Vykas will start off with 180 lines of HP. You will need to burn her down to 170 lines of HP to experience the first major mechanic, which I like to call Swamp. If you do not burn her down to 170 HP lines quickly, she may spawn a pink aura underneath your feet. After a few moments, the pink aura will turn into a puddle. Standing in this puddle will increase your lust meter. You cannot drop this pink aura in the middle of the arena. It needs to be brought to the edge. However, if Vykas does spawn this pink aura before the first mechanic at 170 HP lines, then you need to bring it to the edge, but do not bring it to the edge around 9 o'clock. You need to bring it to the maybe top left or top or bottom, but do not bring it to the left side. If you do, that will be problematic for the swamp mechanic that I will discuss now. At 170 HP lines or below, the swamp mechanic will occur. Vykas will teleport to the middle of the arena. When this mechanic happens, you should stand at 11 o'clock or 7 o'clock, top left or bottom left. 2 random raid members will get brown aura under their feet. Everyone else will get white aura under their feet. This aura will eventually drop a lingering AoE on the ground. The white AoE will increase movement speed. The brown AoE will decrease movement speed. If you have the brown aura, you will need to form a bridge at 9 o'clock with the other raid member as fast as you can. The purpose of forming a bridge is to slow the movement speed of all raid members so that they do not get hit by the attack that Vykas will do. If you have the white aura, you need to stand away from the 9 o'clock bridge. Once the white or brown aura drops on the ground, you need to move to the left edge of the brown bridge. The entire raid will start moving slowly towards Vykas. If this is done correctly, no one will die. The goal of this mechanic is for the entire raid to move slowly towards Vykas and to not touch the small AoE attack that she will perform. If a white AoE overlaps with a brown AoE, some or all raid members can start moving towards Vykas very quickly, which in return can cause death. At 150 HP lines or less, the next major mechanic will happen. Everyone needs to gather somewhat close to the middle. Vykas will vanish. With the May 2023 update, when this mechanic happens, if no raid member has red meter, the game will automatically give red meter to a random raid member. If you do not have red meter, you will see multiple clones of Vykas. However, if you do have red meter, you will see multiple swords instead. Raid members with red meter must ping each sword location quickly, and the raid members that do not have red meter will see which ping matches a Vykas clone. A ping that is the same spot as a Vykas clone is the correct spot to stand in. Everyone must stand at the correct spot to avoid death. The correct clone will do a map-wide AoE attack, and the safe spot is directly on the clone itself. Regarding the 150 HP line mechanic, almost every single pattern can be memorized. There's only 8 in total. 7 out of 8 patterns do not require someone with red meter to ping the sword location. What I am showing on screen now is a picture that shows the safe spot of each pattern. Feel free to take a screenshot of this and memorize the patterns if you like. The only pattern that is wonky is when there are 2 clones on the right and left and 1 clone at the bottom. With this particular pattern, the correct clone is on the right side, but you cannot tell which one by memorizing because it is considered RNG. The next mechanic happens at 135 HP lines or less. A text box will appear on your screen, and Vykas will fly away and bombard the map with red puddles that will increase your meter if you get hit by them. Everyone must gather at 12 o'clock or top of the arena, and one person needs to interact with the golden orb. Upon interaction, a yellow AoE will spawn. Standing in this AoE will decrease your lust meter the longer you stand in it. The goal is to fully deplete the lust meter of all raid members. Then, shortly after, a typing test will occur. If everyone succeeds the typing test, Vykas will appear at the middle of the arena and will be staggered on the ground. This will be a good time to deal damage to the boss. Regarding the typing test, the characters you have to type will always be the following: Q as in Quebec, W as in wood, E as in Edward, A as in apple, S as in Sam, and D as in David. The typing test will always be a random order of those 6 characters. If your lust meter is not fully depleted before the typing test starts, it will be very difficult to complete. If a raid member fails the typing test, Vykas will perform a map-wide AoE attack. Supports will need to use their awakening right after the cutscene so that party members will not take damage from this attack. In addition, you can use your time stop potion if your support is not going to use their awakening, or if their awakening is on cooldown. You will know how many raid members have failed based upon the text box that appears at the bottom of your screen once the cutscene is finished. If the text box notification says Vykas absorbed 1, 2, or 3 spirits, that means 1, 2, or 3 raid members have failed. If 4 or more fail, it is considered a wipe. In addition, the AoE attack I mentioned earlier that Vykas will do in the event that someone fails will do more damage based upon how many people have failed. Regardless of success or failure, Vykas will always fly up in the air and do 2 attacks. Everyone should gather together. The first attack will either be an inside safe line attack or a straight line attack that you have to move out of. It is complete RNG on which one happens first. But if you see the straight line attack, you will move out, then you will gather together, because the next attack will be the inside safe line attack. Afterwards, Vykas will try to land on a random player. It will be marked as a red circle telegraph. You will simply move outside of this. When she does land, she will immediately follow up with another telegraphed attack where inside next to her will be safe. So when she's about to land, it's outside safe, then inside safe. The next major mechanic will happen at 120 HP lines or less. Vykas will spawn aura underneath the feet of most players. This is the same aura I discussed earlier in my video, but you will not bring it to the edge. Every raid member needs to stack together and get charmed. This is because her next attack will kill any raid member that is not charmed. This is a very simple mechanic. You stack together, you get charmed, and that is it. There is nothing more to it than that. Now I will say that sometimes a raid member may get charmed again after the mechanic ends. If that does happen, you simply use your sleep bomb on that raid member. Make sure that after you use a sleep bomb, you auto attack the raid member so that they can get back into action. If you do not auto attack after using a sleep bomb on a raid member, they will sit in that sleep bomb state for quite a long time. So if you auto attack the raid member after using the sleep bomb, it will interrupt the sleep effect and it will allow them to get back into action almost immediately. The next mechanic happens at 100 HP lines or less. Vykas will teleport to the middle and one frog will spawn at the top and bottom of the arena. After Vykas teleports to the middle of the arena, she will do a red telegraphed attack. You simply need to stand outside of it. This is a stagger mechanic and there are two ways to do it. I will explain the method that most people use now, then I will explain the method that was used often around the time that Vykas launched in the West. The first method is Wei Frog. All raid members, excluding the party leader, will stand at the bottom and kill the bottom frog that spawns. With the recent Vykas nerf, you no longer need red meter to damage the frog. While the rest of the raid members are trying to kill the frog, the leader will stand somewhat between Vykas and the top frog and use Wei. If positioned correctly, Wei will stagger Vykas and also kill the top frog. In addition, if you have enough damage, you can simply use Wei on Vykas alone and kill the top frog. Once Vykas has been staggered, all of the raid members can go to the boss and deal damage to the boss for a few seconds. If you are one of the raid members at the bottom trying to kill the frog, you can stand in the red aura surrounding Vykas until you get red meter. Just be careful to get out of the red aura once you have red meter. If you stand in it longer than you need to, you may get charmed. This additional meter will be useful for the 55 HP line mechanic, which I will discuss later on. The second method is Cleanse Stagger. Everyone will go to 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock, and one person will interact with the golden orb at either location. Every raid member will stand in a yellow AoE and cleanse. You should not do a full cleanse, but somewhat close to zero, because you want additional meter for the 55 HP line mechanic. After you cleanse, you will move to Vykas and dish out your stagger skills and use Whirlwind Grenade. Once Vykas is staggered, you will need to use Time Stop when you see the frogs about to explode. Or you can count to 6 after the frogs spawn, then Time Stop. This method is not used often anymore since the Wei Frog saves you from wasting a Time Stop potion. The next major mechanic is around 75 HP lines or less, and it is the swamp mechanic, but again. When this mechanic happens, you should stand at 11 o'clock or 7 o'clock, top left or bottom left. 2 random raid members will get brown aura under their feet. Everyone else will get white aura under their feet. This aura will eventually drop a lingering AoE on the ground. The white AoE will increase movement speed. The brown AoE will decrease movement speed. If you have the brown aura, you will need to form a bridge at 9 o'clock with the other raid member as fast as you can. The purpose of forming a bridge is to slow the movement speed of all raid members so that they do not get hit by the attack that Vykas will do. If you have the white aura, you need to stand away from the 9 o'clock bridge. Once the white or brown aura drops on the ground, you need to move to the left edge of the brown bridge. The entire raid will start moving slowly towards Vykas. If this is done correctly, no one will die. Next major mechanic will happen around 55 HP lines or less. Tentacles will spawn on the left side, right side, and bottom of the arena. The goal is to kill every tentacle that has spawned. However, in order to deal damage to these tentacles, you must have red meter. Red balls will start flying in, and eating these red balls will give you meter. During the course of this mechanic, your meter will quickly go down. So you need to eat the balls that are flying in, then quickly destroy the tentacles. The strategy that most groups go by is Party 1 going left side and Party 2 going right side. You will start at the top left or top right and work your way down, killing the tentacles. Having your meter close to full should give you enough time to kill 1 or 2 tentacles, maybe even more depending on your damage. Before this mechanic happens, you should save your high damage skills. For transformation classes like Scouter or Shadowhunter, you should save your transformation until this mechanic occurs, or transforming a bit before this mechanic occurs. If you have an awakening that does considerable AoE, it would be best to save it for this mechanic so that you can kill a few tentacles quickly. If a single tentacle is alive when a cutscene occurs, it will be a wipe. If you are playing a support character, there is not much you can do besides giving an attack buff and being on sleep bomb patrol in case someone gets charmed from eating too many balls. Around 10 HP lines, someone in a raid should interact with a golden orb so that the raid can decrease their lust meter. This will be necessary for the final mechanic at 2 to 0 HP lines. Keep in mind that if you have 0 lust meter, you cannot deal damage to the boss. So if you are going in for a cleanse around 10 HP lines and you are playing a DPS class, you should only do a partial cleanse so that you can continue to damage the boss. The last mechanic will happen at 2 HP lines or below. During the course of this mechanic, your meter will slowly increase over time. It is essential that you do not get charmed. The purpose of this mechanic is to deplete the purple stagger bar that is shown under the HP bar of the boss. Everyone should gather at the middle of the map. Look at your mini-map in the top right-hand corner. The boss icon will appear at the bottom, top, left, or right corner of the map. Once you see where Vykas will appear, you need to look in her direction. You can do this by performing a swift auto attack in that direction. Once you have looked at her, you should walk up a little bit so that you are in range to throw a whirlwind grenade. If your meter is not close to full, you can walk up to her and start dishing out some high stagger skills. However, if your meter is close to full, you should stand still and wait for puddles to spawn. These puddles will spawn from the middle and move up towards the boss and eventually wrap behind the boss. These puddles will decrease your lust meter, so you should follow these puddles to decrease your lust meter. Players that did not have high lust meter initially at the start of the mechanic can simply keep staggering the boss and wait for the puddles to get near the boss. Once the puddles start to wrap behind the boss, you will need to go behind the boss. This is because Vykas will perform a map-wide attack. The safe spot for this attack is behind her. If you are in front of her during this map-wide attack, you will immediately die. After a few moments, Vykas will fly up in the air and perform a familiar attack. Everyone will gather together. The first attack will either be an inside safe line attack or a straight line attack where the outside is safe. After Vykas performs these two attacks, she will land in the middle of the map. Outside safe, then inside safe. Continue to do stagger. The Wei side rail should be up at this point. If so, it should be used. The Wei side rail does a ton of stagger to Vykas and will help out immensely with this final mechanic. Your whirlwind grenade should also be off cooldown if you used it earlier, as I stated in the video. If it's off cooldown, you should use it again. Vykas will then spawn a familiar pink AoE underneath the feet of all players. This needs to be brought to the edge. It is different from what you've seen earlier in a raid because in this mechanic it will get larger. Do not bring it north because there is a cheat spot I will discuss in a moment. It is best to bring it to the left or right side. Afterwards, you have two options. You can go back in the middle and continue to perform Stagger while dodging a barrage of attacks, or go to the very top of the map, which is considered a cheese spot since you will not be hit by any of her attacks. The choice is yours. If you are in the middle, her final attack will be a straight inside safe line attack that is either front and back or side to side. You should see a purple clone. You need to look away from that clone, otherwise you will gain additional gauge. If the stagger check has not yet been completed, after the blast from the purple clone, Vykas will fly back up in the air and do the exact same rotation again. I'm showing a cheese spot on screen now. In this cheese spot, you will not get hit by any attacks that Vykas is doing in the middle of the arena. Since gauge management is very important in this final mechanic, standing at this cheese spot is a good idea. What I will discuss now are a few notable attack patterns that you should be aware of. Medusa. This attack pattern is random and usually only appears towards the end of the raid. However, it can sometimes appear at the start of the raid. If it does appear when her HP line is 100 bars or above, everyone will simply need to look away. You can do this by simply auto-attacking away from her. The tell for this attack is seeing a bunch of black tendrils on the ground. That is when you will look away. If you happen to look at the boss, then the Medusa attack will fail and everyone will need to time stop to stay alive. If this attack happens later on in the raid, towards the end, then she will do the Medusa attack twice. You will need to pay attention to her wings. Her wings will either be closed or open. If her wings are closed, then everyone needs to look away. If her wings are open, only 2 players need to look at her. If more or less than 2 players look at her when her wings are open, the Medusa attack will fail. Fortunately, you can time stop this Medusa attack. The tell for when a time stop is when the floor of the map starts to turn red. To be honest, most groups just time stop Medusa and do not do it properly. Always be prepared to use time stop in a random group. If you are in a raid with high damage, you may not see the Medusa attack at all towards the end. Invisible Whales. The boss will spawn a large red telegraphed attack, then smash her sword on the ground. Invisible whales will appear on the map. You cannot see these whales unless your meter is red. Everyone should gather at the very bottom of the map. That is the cheese spot so that you do not get hit by these whales. If no one has red meter, it's best to wait at the bottom for quite a few seconds, then move up. If someone does have red meter, that raid member should danger ping which spots are not safe or ping which spots are safe. Front and back smash. The boss will slash her sword once, then smash on the ground. Afterwards, she will do this again in the opposite direction. The safe spot will be behind her both times. If you are in front of her when she smashes the ground, you will gain meter and take damage. Spin and line attack. The boss will stand still for a quick moment, then quickly do a spin attack where front and back is not safe. Afterwards, lines will appear on her sides and front and back will then be safe. You should move out of the initial spin attack, then move back in to her front or back to continue doing damage. Red chains. Vykas will spawn a bunch of red portals with chains coming out of them. A few moments after these chains have spawned, red patches will appear on the ground. If you stand in these red patches, you will gain meter. Simply avoid. If you get hit by the chains, you will be imprisoned and a raid member will have to free you. Simply ping where you are if you do get imprisoned. Red Bombardment. Vykas will levitate and start out with the outside safe or inside safe telegraph, followed by red circles that will bombard the surrounding area. If you eat a lot of these attacks, your meter will fill up quickly. It is best to play it safe and move away from her until you are comfortable doing damage while also avoiding the red circles and telegraphs. Red lines. The boss will lunge her sword forward, then spawn a few red line telegraphs. There will be a safe spot in between these red lines. If you get hit by these red lines, you will take damage and gain meter. The safe spot is going to be in between the red lines, behind her, or to her left and right side. What I want to discuss now are the two counterable attacks that Vykas will perform in Gate 2. Teleport counter. Vykas will do a quick spin, then teleport behind a player and attempt to dash. She will then turn blue. This is the cue to counter. If the counter fails, she will do another quick spin, then spawn multiple red projectiles. Afterwards, she will attempt to land on a random player shown as a red circle. Outside safe, then inside safe. If you were hit by these red projectiles, you will get a red aura surrounding your character. If a raid member stands in your red aura, they will gain additional meter. If you have this red aura, stay away from your raid members until the debuff expires. Dash counter. Vykas will stand still for a brief moment, then quickly disappear and reappear in the same spot. She will then turn blue. This is the cue to use your counter skill. If you miss this counter, she will dash, then give you a second chance to counter. If you miss the second chance, she will dash again, then smash the ground. And that will be it for Vykas Gate 2. This concludes the entire raid for Vykas. I hope my guide videos have helped you out in some way, whether you are a new or returning player. If you have enjoyed this video or proved to be helpful to you in some regard, please consider giving this video a like, comment, or subscribe to my YouTube channel. I also live stream every day on Twitch at twitch.tv/deathboy523. I also teach my viewers or Discord members Legion raids. If you want me to personally teach you any raid in the game, just let me know by hopping on stream or joining my Discord server. I'll leave a link in the description of this video to my Twitch channel and my Discord server. I will also provide a link that will give you a bit more detail regarding the normal attack patterns in Vykas Gate 2 because I did not cover them all. With all that being said, I hope you have a wonderful time raiding in Lost Ark, and that will be it. Peace.